Hey, horror fans! Once again, it is me, the Horror Mizamani G. It's time to review the latest film in the Silent Night, Deadly Night film series. Yes, this one is the second remake to the original 1984 film. This one is called Silent Night, Deadly Night 2025. Ha 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 ha!
Y'all ready for this?
Hey, horror fans! Once again, it is me, the Horror Mizamani G. Now, Silent Night, Deadly Night is a 2025 Christmas slasher film that was written and directed by Mike P. Nelson, based on the 1984 Christmas slasher film of the same name by Michael Hickley. The film stars Rohan Campbell, Ruby Modine, David Tomlinson, and Mark Arkinson. Aikenson, I believe how you pronounce his name. Now, in this film, a child witnesses his parents' murder by a man in a Santa suit. Years later, as an adult, he dons a Santa costume himself and embarks on a violent quest of retribution. Oh boy, here we go again. Now, horror fans, I remember when the Christmas slasher film Silent Night, Deadly Night was coming out back in 1984 and the backlash it received. All these poor mothers are picketing out at the theaters trying to say this is wrong because kids are going to think Santa Claus is a killer and they're going to be scared and that was just terrible. How you make Santa Claus into a killer? Now, keep in mind, this film was not made for kids. It was a slasher film. It was not had anything to do with Santa Claus at all. It was just a man in a Santa Claus suit. And unfortunately, they protested enough that the theaters decided to pull it 2 weeks after it was released. Now, despite the fact the film was pulled from theaters 2 weeks after its release, it was a modest box office success, grossing over 2.5 million on a budget of only $750,000. Now, this led the film to become a franchise, spawning 4 sequels and a remake of the first film called Silent Night back in 2012. Now that brings us to American film Mike P. Nelson's latest project, the second remake and the seventh overall film in the series. This one is called Silent Night, Deadly Night 2025. Now, after visiting his grandfather in the hospice care facility, Billy Chapman sees his parents brutally murdered by a man dressed in a Santa suit. Oh no, not again. Years later, as an adult, Billy travels between towns and avoids long-term relationship, dressing up as Santa and murders people who he deems as naughty. Now arriving in the town of Hackett, Billy now sets his sight on the next group of people who he believes needs to be punished because they're naughty people. You know, when watching this film, Mike follows the same beats as the original 1984 film, using the same premise as the beginning of the film and using the Billy Chapman name as well. Because in the beginning of this particular film, he goes by a different last name. He used the alias as Billy Chapman from the first film, but his last name is not Chapman. I forget what the actual name is, but he uses the alias Billy Chapman. However, this Billy isn't killing because he's suffering from post traumatic stress disorder or PTSD from seeing the Santa that kills his parents, or from any other psychological disorders he may have had prior to the events he saw in the beginning of the film. Now, while not spoiling anything, and I'm pretty sure people who have seen the film know what I'm talking about, seeing this Billy gives me Mr. Brooks vibes. And Mike gives his film a little supernatural vibes on what turned Billy into a killer. We see that sometimes during the middle of the first and second act of the film and what happens at the end of the film. Kind of gives you supernatural vibes with this one, as opposed to being a straight out slasher. Now, while the kills are nothing that we haven't seen before, it's who Billy is killing that makes this film a little special, a special massacre scene that takes place during the second act of the film. I won't reveal what that is because I don't want to spoil the surprise, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people got a lot of satisfaction about who's Billy's killing. Now, we really don't need to go into another discussion about Rohan Campbell's involvement with Halloween. And so for this film, which we're going to talk about this film only, I believe he does a pretty good job at playing Billy. No, he seems to be a nice kid, well adjusted kid in the beginning of the film, and here he seems to be a well, nice, honest man who's put into a difficult situation as we learn the reason why Santa killed his parents. We believe he's doing the right thing by punishing the naughty. I mean, he's kind, he's generous, he feels as though what he's doing is right when it comes to punishing the naughty. I won't reveal that much more without giving it away, but I thought Rohan did a pretty good job in displaying who Billy is, his motivations. He's not crazy. He comes off a little weird, but yeah, I really thought he did a good job in playing Billy. No, I love the chemistry he has with Ruby Modine. Now, you remember her from Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day 2, who plays the flawed Pamela Pam Sims. Now, she has her own issues, and she and Billy bond over them. I thought they had great scenes together. They actually comes to a head in the third act of the film when Mike tries to make Billy into an anti-hero. I mean, we get to see some instances of her issues right during the middle of the first and second act of the film, where she acts out when something happens to one of what I believe is her nephew, and she goes crazy against something like that. So we know that her and Billy have something in common. Now, I'll give Mike credit for trying to do something different with his remake of the 1984 original film as he did with his remake with Wrong Turn back in 2021. In that particular film, he used a different way as far as what we saw in the original Wrong Turn remake. He did something different in that film. He does the same thing here too. So I'll give him credit for wanting to try something different and not rehash the same stuff that we've seen in all the other movies. I mean, I'll give him this. This film is a lot better than the 2012 remake that was just called Silent Night that starred Malcolm McDonald and Jamie King, which had some interesting kills, but I felt the story was flat and dull. Just didn't do anything for me. No, not saying Mike's script here isn't much better, but there's no other characters in the film for the ones to care about, and he doesn't do a good job in trying to make Mike into the anti-hero with the child abductor subplot. But overall, it's a fair attempt, and I'm sure some horror fans will enjoy what Mike done here. You know, with that massacre that takes place in the second act of the film, some decent practical effects, and some okay acting from the leads. But for me, the story's really not that compelling. Too many one-dimensional characters, the failed attempt to try to make Mike into an anti-hero with that Snatcher. I think it's called the Snatcher subplot. He doesn't delve into that. If he would have dwelled in that a little bit more, particularly when Mike arrived at the town, you add that element in along with the massacre that takes place, I think this would have been a better film. Not saying it's a bad film, but to me, it's just it's okay. So I'm going to give Silent Night, Deadly Night 2025 only two of the miser's five bloody coins. Yes, only two of the miser's five bloody coins. I'll get that right. Like I said before, it's okay. It's not bad. It's better than I would say all the other films in this particular series. But it's not lacking. It could have been much better if he would have involved a little bit more of the additional subplot with the Snatcher, and and trying to make Billy into more of an anti-hero. So there you have it, horror fans. That is my review and video of Silent Night, Deadly Night 2025. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, like, and share. It really helps out with the YouTube algorithm. So, did you enjoy this remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night 2025? Leave your comments in your comment section below. Tell you thought about the film. Also, if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. That way, you'll be notified anytime when I put a new video such as this one. Once again, my name is Lamont Smith, better known as the Horror Miser Money G, and always remember horror rules. I see you in my next video. Like I say, safe out there.